us. This is the first time I've ever done a simulcast by both YouTube and Facebook. So this is all working just swimmingly, and we can get started. Welcome to the new moon solar eclipse ritual. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Great Ganesha, clear a path for us with your mighty elephant's trunk, that our human prayers may reach the ears of the gods. Ye lords of the watchtowers of the east, spirits of air, I do summon, stir, and call you up to witness this rite and guard this circle. Give us discernment to tell false from true, to see clearly through the smoke of illusion, and give us discernment to scrutinize our pains, to speak with kindness and detachment. Hail and welcome. Ye lords of the watchtowers of the south, spirits of fire, I do summon, stir, and call you up to witness this rite and guard our circle. Grant us true will to know the source of our power, to act in faith, not fear, nor rash impulse, and grant us true will that is not driven by the past, to act with courage, not in hate or disgust. Hail and welcome. Ye lords of the watchtowers of the west, spirits of water, I do summon, stir, and call you up to witness this rite and guard our circle. Make our minds as still as a moonlit pond, that we may dive deeply into a well of peace and float upon a current of forgiveness. Hail and welcome. Ye lords of the watchtowers of the north, spirits of earth, I do summon, stir, and call you up to witness this rite and guard our circle. Keep us sure-footed as we walk through the shadows. Help us keep our heads, standing firm and strong upon the stone. Hail and welcome. We call upon our ancestors, the mighty heroes of our blessed dead. Your obsessions that were still unsatisfied, and your prejudices that were yet unhealed when you passed out from the bodily world, we have incarnated to fulfill and balance them. But we may not know what drives us because of the veil of forgetfulness. Guide us now as we strive to restore karmic justice. Hail and welcome. We offer up a prayer for the descendants, those whom we love now and those not yet born. You, in your turn, will have to correct the mistakes of your elders, driven by obsessions and revulsions of your own. Yet the solution may not truly be what you think. The discernment of air, the will of fire, the peace of water, the firmness of earth. These are your inheritance to restore karmic justice. Hail and welcome. We call upon the goddess of the moon and the god of the sun, the gods who are female and male. And we call upon the gods who are both and neither. Rahu, the head of the dragon, And Ketu, the tail of the dragon, the shapeshifters, ever chasing the moon and sun through the heavens, sometimes catching up and swallowing them, as they are doing in this fortnight. Yet even in Rahu's obsession and Ketu's disgust, they both have much to teach us. Hail and welcome. The circle is cast. We are between the worlds, beyond the bounds of time and space. Om Nakhat Vajaya Vidmahe Padmahastaya Dhimahi Tanno Rahu Prachodayat. Let us meditate on him who has a snake in his flag, he who has a lotus in his hand. Give us higher intellect and let Rahu illuminate our minds and our understanding. Om Rahu, you are the darkest hour of night. A shadow being, you always distort the light. And you have no stomach, just an endless appetite. Your twisted thoughts are insane, tainted, and corrupt. Your backward motion makes you disturb and disrupt. Born an Asura, you are heartless, uncaring, abrupt. You go too far and then become abusive. Your convoluted plots are so elusive. O master of secrets, your whereabouts are exclusive. Your forward motion is everyone else's reverse. Your normal makes every other thing become converse. Your verities twist and turn until all is perverse. You cannot resist the allure of the fraudulent. Outside the laws of nature, you are impermanent. No one can ever trust your perverted intent. Your reputation is always notorious. O Rahave, your way is so scandalous. On either side where you live, it is treacherous. Om Asvad Vajaya Vidmahe Sulahastaya Dhimahi Tanno Ketu Prachodayat. Now let us meditate on him who has a horse in his flag, he who has a trident in his hand. Give us higher intellect and let Ketu illuminate our minds and understanding. Om Ketu, you are enigmatic and a mystic, cryptic, telepathic, and eccentric. Seeing all, you are psychic and esoteric. You live in a cave deep underground, freedom-loving, the human spirit unbound. All day and night, you live on sacred ground. Mysterious, your treasures are locked in secrecy. Your home is where you are in mendicancy, mendicancy. And the treasure in your heart is privacy. Om Dragon's Tail, the world thinks you are insane because you constantly dwell upon the arcane until your words remove their mortal chain. Inspiration, the fruit of renunciation, so humble, no one expects emancipation. O keeper of the gate to liberation. You see the devas, so your words are enigmatic, esoteric, cryptic, and telekinetic. And you know our secrets because you are telepathic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's new moon eclipse ritual, with special thanks to fellow astrologer Jeffrey Armstrong for letting me borrow his two eclipse poems. My name is Rosanna Tufts from wisdomofthecosmos.com, Still getting wiggy with it. My post chemo hair is growing back, but not good enough yet to go out in public. And if you've been online with me before, you know that you have to handle eclipsed new and full moons a little differently. Otherwise, any magic you attempt will either completely fall flat or you'll have an extremely twisted result. You have to do some propitiation of the eclipse energies and their shadows to prevent that from happening. You've come to the right place because eclipses are my magical specialty. This month in particular, the time to do your manifesting magics is 3 days after the new moon. And I'm going to show you why a little bit later. And since the church that I normally practice with, Stone Circle Council, already has dibs on for rituals on all the full moons, I have set up this ritual to combine both tonight's solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse on May 5th, 2 weeks later. So we are paying our respects to both eclipsing factors, Rahu and Ketu, tonight. At this time that we are live online, April 19th, it is the dark moon. The eclipse doesn't start for another 90 minutes. It peaks shortly after midnight tonight, Eastern Time. So, what we're doing now, heading into it, you'll be able to recognize and understand and handle the energies when they present themselves in your life. This solar eclipse is only visible over Australia and the equatorial Pacific Islands. The companion lunar eclipse will also be visible over Australia and the South Pacific, but also most of Europe and all of Africa and Asia. They'll all get to see it. This is the third of 4 eclipse pairs with the nodal axis in Aries and Libra, where they've been since March of last year. The next solar eclipse this October will be visible in the Western Hemisphere. Western Hemisphere. Now, why is it inadvisable to attempt magics on the eclipsed new and full moons? Because the supporting factors that would normally help us, the vision and initiative of the sun and the peacefulness and fullness of feeling of the moon, are being overridden by 2 disruptive factors that obscure them. The 2 great lights are temporarily cast into darkness. Rahu and Ketu are the 2 planets you've never heard of because they are not actual physical planets. They are mathematical shadow points in space that can only be seen when the sun, moon, and earth all form a straight line in 3-dimensional space. When the moon casts a shadow upon the sun from our vantage points here on Earth, or when the Earth is in between the sun and moon. Can you see all of them there? Yes. Let me back up a little. When the Earth is in between the sun and moon, and the Earth itself is casting a shadow on the moon. If the moon is above or below that alignment, no eclipse happens. All 3 of them have to line up. The only times you can see Rahu or Ketu are when there is an eclipse going on, which happens 4 times a year on average. Now, why are they disruptive? What are their effects upon our minds, upon the world? I teach a whole class just on this, but very briefly, Rahu The head of the dragon that has no body gives you an insatiable appetite for something, an obsession that you cannot get enough of. Often, you don't care who or what you have to destroy in order to get that fix. K2 is the opposite. He's the body of the dragon that has no head. Where he dominates, you have a revulsion, a disgust of something that you've had too much of in your life. You may, in fact, have a lot of mastery with whatever that thing is, but it gives you no joy. You can't see the value of that experience. K2 makes you sharply critical of that thing. You see how the K2 revulsion often gives rise to the Rahu obsession? You think you have to completely reject all of the K2 thing in order to have any of the Rahu thing. It's a false choice. The Rahu K2 axis has been in Aries and Libra on that axis of Aries between Aries and Libra respectively for over a year now and will still be there until mid-October. Now, how have we been seeing this obsession and revulsion dance play out on the world stage? Libra is all about how we are able to consider another's wishes as equal to our own and come to some kind of an agreement. But you put K2 in there, the planet that's all about rejecting things that are imperfect, and forget about it. You don't even want to hear what the other person has to say. The other side of this axis, Aries, fire sign, rash, impulsive, ruled by warrior Mars. Put explosive Rahu in there, the planet that's all about eating everything in sight, and you get fighting dirty, inflammatory, scorched earth rhetoric, hurling accusations at the opposition, using labels that describe exactly what the attackers themselves are guilty of. Forcing middle schoolers to read To Kill a Mockingbird? That's racism because it makes white people look like the bad guys. Libraries hosting being allowed to host drag queen story hour? That's fascism because it makes gay people look fabulous and straight people look boring. Not to mention all the red herrings you've been seen throwing around. Smoke and mirrors meant to distract you from the real crimes and swindles of people in high places who are robbing you blind. Just yesterday, our biggest propaganda factory settled a defamation suit, a surprise a lot of people didn't see coming. The dollar amount was astronomical, but they'll pay it gladly to prevent their viewers from learning the truth about their lies. Since Rahu rules deception, unexpected twists, and explodes anything it touches, all of this makes sense. All of this has been coming to a head for years, and it's just not sustainable. People can't live like this. Somewhere the insanity has to stop. So now the sun and moon are lining up on this axis. Starting tonight, they are both conjunct Rahu. And Mercury is also there in Aries, about to turn retrograde. And Jupiter is in the very last degree of Pisces. He's not able to bring grace to all of the volatile energy until he makes it into Aries. In the last couple of weeks, you may have felt very unsure of yourself, feeling like you don't have everything you need to move forward. You may not even know what you need. It feels obscured, just out of reach. Jupiter and Mercury are both about to make these shifts. They're right on the precipice, but they haven't done it yet. Another thing that's important about this eclipse in Aries is how Mars, the ruler of Aries, is exchanging signs with Mercury. Mars is in Gemini, Mercury's sign, while Mercury is in Aries, Mars's sign. Usually, planetary exchanges are helpful, but not when it's between arch enemy planets. It's like they've invaded each other's territory. Makes people very reactive, suspicious, opinionated. Neither side wants to consider the other's position or back down. Now, this exchange of planets between Mars and Mercury is only beneficial to you if you can humble yourself enough to listen. Your opponent will give you information that you need. They might give it to you accidentally without meaning to. So remember what Napoleon said: never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. Aries is the sign where the sun is exalted and at his most powerful. But what happens when he is eclipsed? The sun is the king, the planet of high government officials and CEOs. This could either bring about a reversal of fortune for some of them, looking at you, Murdoch, or you could find that they have not been completely honest with you because Rahu rules deception. They've been hiding something, and the eclipse exposes that. Exposes what they've been hiding, like turning on the lights and all the cockroaches scramble for cover. Jupiter is like the chief priest, the, the prime minister who advises the king. With Jupiter in the last degree of Pisces and completely weak right now, the leaders are either getting bad advice or no advice at all. If you are in a position of leadership yourself, watch out for being backed into a corner and being forced to make rash decisions based on bad advice. Who's the opposite of the king? The common people. Who's the planet of the common people? Saturn, who is in Aquarius, the sign of the common people since the start of the year. He casts an aspect 3 signs away from himself, which in this case is Aries. So the forces of democracy and the common good are putting enormous pressure on governments to reverse their trends of making life oppressive for everyone. Of course, there is some dispute about who constitutes the common people. Is this going to be a country exclusively for the benefit of white, cishet, Christian, semi educated, gun toting men and their subjugated wives and their neo feudal oligopolic overlords, all of whom believe they are on the verge of being wiped out like dinosaurs, and yet, they're the only real patriots. And the only way to regain their dominance is to take everybody else's rights away or take their very lives away. Or is our country going to be for the benefit of them and, not or, and all of the people of color, LGBTQs, Jews, devotees of other religions, intellectuals, artists, refugees, the disabled, women who want sovereignty over their own destinies, children who would love nothing more than to graduate high school or college without being slaughtered in a hail of bullets, and the air, waterways, and fertile soil. Did I forget anybody? I mean, I know that sounds like an awfully big laundry list, but is that really too much to ask? Come on, we're Americans. We're supposed to be good at this. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Are we going to fulfill that promise or decide that equity for all demands too much of our better angels and we'd be better off without it? All of the uncertainty that you're feeling now will come into clearer focus as the moon makes its way around to Libra and the lunar eclipse on May 5th. The moon represents how you feel about what's going on around you and inside of you. You may find that you and the people around you are sharing their feelings more openly. Hidden emotions come out. Some kind of emotional catharsis is possible. This can be very hard on your close relationships, but at least after that, you can start to plan for the future, how to handle this emotional turmoil going forward. In the meantime, avoid offers that seem too good to be true. Wait until after Mercury turns direct again on May 15th before making any important financial decisions. In spite of all this intensity, we do have one chance at a saving grace, a special power time that is 3 days after this new moon, April 22nd, Saturday, which also happens to be the annual Earth Day. I'm talking about Akshaya Trittiya, the day of never declining wealth. That's the shift you want to tap into. That's the day to do your manifesting magics, not on the eclipse, but 3 days later. Now, why is Akshaya Trittiya one of the most auspicious days of the year? Get that in screen. There we go. Because on the third day after the new moon in Aries, the moon has waxed to Taurus. So you have the sun in Aries and the moon in Taurus, both in their signs of exaltation, where they're at their most effective. Any action you take on Akshaya Trittiya is supposed to be guaranteed of success. Even better, that's also the day Jupiter makes his way into Aries, joining the Sun and Rahu. Once that happens, we'll have access to his grace again. All three of them will be in a lunar mansion called Ashwini. In Hindu mythology, the gods of Ashwini are the Ashwin Kumars, twin horses who are the physicians to the gods. When you do your magic or meditation on this powerful day, think of how a surgeon has to think fast and take decisive action to save someone's life. That's the kind of focused energy you should cultivate. It's not about being rash and impulsive purely for the sake of being rash and impulsive. The twin horses are there to give you the power of moving in a focused direction. Usually, our minds are running all over the place. Yoke the galloping horses of your mind together so that they are running in one direction, like the chariot card from your tarot deck. Akshaya Trittiya is traditionally regarded as a day to invest in gold, jewelry, or other luxuries. I would modify that for life in the modern world to say that whatever you buy on this day, Akshaya Tritiya, it should not be frivolous. It should be an investment in yourself that will make you more valuable, more compensable. Do you need a new professional suit? As an example, buy it on August 22nd, August, not April 22nd. Do you need to upgrade some equipment that you need for your work? Buy it on April 22nd. Enroll in or take a course in something that will give you a new or augmented skill. Now, don't go crazy with this. Rahu's influence has a way of making people go overboard, thinking that they have to get everything under the sun. Choose carefully. Do one of this nature. If you're having a grand opening of a new shop or launching a new website, April 22nd is a great day to do it, presuming, of course, that you've already put in the foundation work over the past few months. If you're an entrepreneur exhibiting at a street fair, trade show, expo, or conference, expect to have a very lucrative day, especially if you are introducing a new product or service while you're there. Now that you know what to do on this Saturday, but first we have to calm down the disruption of tonight's eclipse. So now we will resume our ritual of making offerings to both eclipsing energies. Chaya nashchitra abhuvatuti sadanvrta haksakha chaya sachishtaya vrta. How can we make you resplendently clear, O friendly, ever prosperous messenger of the skies? How can we fulfill our heart's desire? This is straight out of the Rig Veda. In the original Sanskrit, the Rig Veda is one of the world's oldest written scriptures, almost 4,000 years old. It predates the Torah. Kaya, Kaya, how? How do we do it? How do we become more like you? It's kind of a reverse psychology because you're describing Rahu in the way that he isn't. And then he starts to behave that way. Chaya nashchitra abahuvduti sada vrta sada. Chaya sachish taya vrta. Chaya nashchitra abahuvduti sada vrta sakha. Chaya sachish taya vrta. And likewise for Ketu. Ketum kunvana ketave, pesho mariam apejase, samushad bahira jayataha. You are the flag. Hold up your flag. Show us the road we can't see. Let the sun come up that lets us conquer our fear. This is also Rig Veda. Ketum means flag, like a war banner that you plant in a field to occupy a territory. But it's also translated comet or falling star. You are supposed to be able to see a flag very clearly, but remember, this is the half of the dragon that has no eyes, and yet you're asking him to be your eyes. It's another reverse psychology. Ketum kunvana ketave Pesho Mariam Apeshase, Samushad Bahira Jayataha, Ketum Kumvana Ketave, Pesho Mariam Apeshase, Samushad Bahira Jayataha. And now we are all going to invite Rahu and Ketu to bring us to true understanding of our own shadows by reciting their seed mantras. Om Rahuve, Om Ram Rahuve, and Om Kaim Ketave Namaha. We will say each of these 9 times. Om Ram Rahuve Namaha, 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 Om Ram Rahuve Namaha. Om Kaim Ketave Namaha, 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 Om Kaim Ketave Namaha. Now that you know these, you can continue chanting the Rahu mantra tonight, Om Ram Rahuve Namaha, up through the eclipse at midnight, and then use the Ketu mantra on May 5th, Om Kaim Ketave Namaha, during the lunar eclipse, which peaks at about 1:30 p.m. that afternoon, Eastern Time. In each case, chant them a minimum of 108 times. As I bring this circle to a close, with the help of my baby angel, you may observe how I use many of the same words for the dismissals as I do for the invocations, because I would hope that now you understand why I phrased them that way. We thank you, Lords Rahu and Ketu. We thank you, God of the Sun. We thank you, divine beings, male, female, both and neither, for coming closer to us this night. May our eyes reflect your light, that we may see through the shadows. We do not dismiss you, for that would not be possible. We thank you for your wisdom and strength. All hail. Those generations yet to come, we thank you for joining us in this sneak preview of your next lives. We hope it will give you hidden wisdom when your time upon the stage arrives. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. Those generations who brought us here, we thank you for joining us in this exploration of what your lives meant. We hope that what we have done this night will help bring you to peacefulness. Go if you must, stay if you will. Hail and farewell. Guardians of the watchtowers of the north, spirits of earth, we thank you for joining us this night. Keep us sure-footed as we walk through the shadows. Help us to keep our heads, standing firm and strong upon the stone. Hail and farewell. Guardians of the watchtowers of the west, spirits of water, we thank you for joining us this night. Make our minds as still as a moonlit pond, that we may dive deeply into the well of peace and float upon a current of forgiveness. Hail and farewell. Guardians of the watchtowers of the south, spirits of fire, we thank you for joining us this night. Grant us true will to know the source of our power, to act in faith, not fear nor rash impulse, and grant us true will that is not driven by the past, to act with courage, not in hate or disgust. Hail and farewell. Guardians of the watchtowers of the east, who are still burning. Spirits of air, we thank you for joining us this night. Give us discernment to tell false from true, to see clearly through the smoke of illusion, and grant us discernment to scrutinize our pains, to speak with kindness and detachment. Hail and farewell. This circle is open, but never broken. Merry meet, and merry part, and merry meet again. Let's see, do I have some? Looks like I have a comment in the chat. It says, Ganesha, guard this circle. I know who that is. So, thank you very much for joining me tonight. And if you missed it, the replay will be available in a few minutes. Thank you, and happy Akshaya Trittiya. Okay, so how do I turn off the other one? There must be a way to turn this off. I don't know exactly how to make it stop. Live video.